tonight's big stories, the Senate begins looking into the issues hounding airlines as more and more passengers share horror stories of getting offloaded and having their flights delayed without proper notice. How are the regulators going to address the matter?
Eating junk food and drinking soft drinks may soon become too expensive for Filipinos. The Budget Department said the Marcos administration will pursue a junk food and sweetened beverage tax to generate more revenue. Just how much are we talking about?
And the government has begun rolling out bivalent vaccines for health workers and senior citizens. What do we know about these vaccines? And how are they different from the primary COVID-19 jabs?
Welcome to the show. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Riza Diaz.
And I'm Sean Yao.
All right.
As we have promised, the Senate did pursue their inquiry. That was your headline?
I know, I just read that headline, but the headline that caught my eye in my ear was the junk food story that she just read. I'm sorry, that's important to me.
Me too.
It's so important to me. Well, actually, Reg, if you can remember, many years ago, we were already discussing this on another channel. We were talking about the escalation of the taxes on junk food and sweetened beverages as part of excise tax.
You're right, they have been wanting to do that for a number of years now. And this time around,
it's finally here! But that's not good news.
They may actually make it happen. So, leading a lot of us to, I don't know, stop eating junk food, I guess. It's high time.
Or pay more.
All right, so anyway, coming back to the top story that I read, which is that the Senate committee has started their inquiry into the series of flight troubles that have been reported as of late.
All right, of course, what are the issues? The main victim here is Cebu Pacific, I suppose. People have been complaining about their service as of late, offloading, flight delays, cancellations, and they had some case studies in that hearing, but even the senators were case studies themselves because they themselves had bad experiences with the airlines.
I don't think anybody has ever, or who has ever flown Cebu Pacific has never had these kind of experiences. I was on a local flight 2 days ago. It's horrible.
And how horrible? What exactly happened to you?
Well, 3 hours delayed. I almost missed a work that I was supposed to go. Just to Cebu.
Okay.
Just very near, like a 45-minute
flight. That's right.
And there was just too many people because all the other flights are getting delayed.
That's right. It snowballs. Because if one flight gets delayed, then everybody gets bumped down.
The ripple effect is just, it's just crazy. It's embarrassing. There were other people in the airport that were foreigners, and to be honest, I am used to it. I guess the other ones that I was with were already used to it. There was no point of complaining. But to the ones that are not from here, let's say foreigners trying to have a vacation,
That's exactly the point of Senator Nancy Binay, the head of the Tourism Committee in Senate.
Oh, I feel sorry for the staff manning the desk that day. All right, so going back to the Senate hearing today, affected passengers were invited to share their experience in dealing with these flight delays and cancellations. But aside from the horror stories from passengers, Tourism Panel Chairperson Nancy Binay also worried about how this casts the Philippines in a bad light, exactly what Riza was saying.
Baka yung inaasahan nating repeat tourist, baka di na bumalik at markahan ng bad review ang Pilipinas dahil sa di magandang experience.
Now, other passengers like political analyst Antonio Contreras also questioned how airlines decide on who to offload. Contreras said his flight got bumped 2 days from its original schedule without prior notice. He said talking to chatbots over his flight trouble only made matters worse.
Now, ang sikuluhiyan ng isang Pilipino, pag nasa kakrisis ka, kailangan mo ng kausap. Kailangan mo ng taong makakarant ka, makakareklamo ka. Minsan nga, sapat na yun eh. Minsan hindi ba kahit, sige, madidelay ka, pero naihinga mo. Paano maihinga sa makina?
Now, as for Cebu Pacific, the airline has apologized to its passengers. The budget carrier says they are doing their best to compensate affected travelers. The company, though, did not directly answer how they decide on offloading matters or who to offload, but they did say that they prioritize vulnerable groups when it comes to rebooking.
Nagbibigay na po kami ng round-trip travel voucher if we cancel the flight 72 hours ahead of time. We're very cognizant that this is really an inconvenience to our passengers because if we had informed them substantially much earlier, the chances are mas mataas po yung chance na makapagpagawa ng alternative travel plans. For that, we are truly sorry.
Senators also grilled the Civil Aeronautics Board for failing to regulate overbookings. In their defense, the agency says they've imposed monetary sanctions against airlines in the past. But for now, CAB says it will talk to airlines about scrapping the expiration for travel funds. This is to allow passengers to easily convert unused tickets into travel funds in case their flights get canceled.
Puede, pero depende. That's the tone of the Labor Department and the Professional Regulation Commission regarding the suggestion of granting temporary licenses for those who failed the nursing board exam. Due to the shortage of nurses in public and private hospitals in the country, Health Secretary Ted Herbosa suggested to hire those who almost passed the nursing licensure examination in government hospitals and grant them temporary licenses. Now, this includes those who obtain grades ranging from 70 to 74%. In a text message from DOLE Secretary Benny Laguesma to News 5, he said that they will be discussing the proposal with the DOH and the Professional Regulation Commission, or PRC. The PRC, however, pointed out the importance of having guidelines for this specialty, since those who failed the licensure exam are not yet considered certified nurses. But according to the Filipino Nurses United, the government should instead prioritize licensed nurses who are currently struggling to find a job.
Ang nabasa ko doon sa announcement kay Secretary Herbosa is they will be under supervision ng registered and licensed nurses. So they are not allowed to independently practice the profession of nursing.
Bakit hindi po niya gawing priority ang pagkuha dun sa mga rehistrado na walang trabaho o natanggal sa trabaho? Kasi malaki-laking bilang rin po yun. At yung mga bagong graduates.
All right, let's discuss this issue further with Philippine Nurses Association President Melvin Miranda. Good evening and welcome to the big story, Melvin. You heard what the story that we just read just now. So my first question to you is, what is your group saying about the matter? What do you think? Is it a good idea to be giving underboard nurses a chance to work right away?
Actually, even DOH Secretary Herbosa had mentioned about that we need 4,000 nurses or manpower for human resources for health. However, the alternative to consider temporary license for 70 to 74% may not be the primary solution, simply because just recently in the May 2023 nurse licensure examination, we have already 10,746 registered nurses. And with this number, I think this could be sufficient to consider to fill the vacant positions for the 4,000. All we need to consider is the Department of Health will publish the opening for these plantilla positions so that our newly passed nurses will definitely be interested to process their application. With the 70 to 74%, it's not yet indicated in our Philippine Nursing Act. However, with this proposal, it will still be in the burden of all of our professional nurses when it comes to their accountability whenever they may possibly commit errors.
All right, Sir Melvin, I have a question. We have 10,700 plus nurses looking for a job, and Secretary Herbosa said there's over 4,000 jobs. What is the mismatch here? If you think about it, it should be easy to just fill in that gap. Is the reason low pay, something like that?
One thing that we have reiterated to Secretary Herbosa is to map out all these job openings, if it is distributed around the country or in the region, so that our nurses will be aware and be informed of such opening. However, because of the lack of information and awareness of our nurses on where to apply and what are the institutions wherein they could consider the application for the job openings, this could be one way for us, what we have mentioned, with the recently passers of the nurse licensure examination. And seemingly, this could be an appeal to the Department of Health for them to be more transparent.
Sir Melvin, clearly one of the issues of our nurses is, of course, the wage. Could you inform us on how much is the minimum wage for nurses here in our country for both private and public hospitals?
In the implementation of the salary of nurses in the public health, or rather in the government public healthcare facilities, we have the entry level as according to our law of the Philippine Nursing Act of 2002, which is salary grade 15, and that is 33,500, compared to the entry level of our nurses in the private sector, which this was already validated by the Department of Health upon their inspection of having 9,000 to 15,000. So the disparity is almost half of the entry level with our public healthcare facility nurses.
So to clarify, the position of PNA, Philippine Nurses Association, is that hindi kailangan yung temporary licenses. It's not needed at the moment, correct?
Yes,
But-
exactly.
Out of the 10,700 or so who passed the licensure exam, the most recent one that you talked about, I mean, you have to consider as well that a bulk of them will go overseas, right? So it's not like you can count on that pool, all of them to go to government positions.
Probably with these options of our Filipino nurses, they may not be out of the country without the work experience. That's why we are considering the fact that whenever there are opportunities that they will be employed here in the country and with the sufficient salary that they could earn accordingly, probably with the culture of Filipino nurses as family-oriented, they may not leave the country. However, we cannot control them with this migration. But I think we really need to start and to have the realization and implement with this direction that there must be a proper dialogue on this so that it could be implemented. Because we have the pending amendment of the Comprehensive Nursing Bill in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, wherein the provision considered the alignment of the salary. And we are talking also, or we are discussing also on the Magna Carta for the public healthcare workers in the private, which proposed at least the 50,000 plus, as according also to the Filipino Nurses United.
Right. I was just going to ask you about that because Filipino Nurses United has put forth an actual figure. This is 50,000 starting salary. But I think government hospitals, they follow that salary grade that you previously mentioned. And I don't think they were able to raise that. Having said that, are these nurses, these licensed board-passing nurses, are they willing to take these jobs that do not pay 50,000 pesos a month?
Okay. Our government may support specifically with the 33,500 as an entry level if we will try to align it with the private sector. So I think this could be the start so that we could have the study, a longitudinal study wherein if this could be sufficient and may not support the solution for the migration of our nurses. So that's why we are really appealing for the enactment of our comprehensive nursing bill so that the implementing rules and regulation may support specifically the provisions on how we will consider the stability or the specific consideration on how we will resolve these problems on the salary of our nurses.
All right, we're going to keep a close eye on this matter. Thank you so much, Philippine Nurses Association President Melvin Miranda. Meanwhile, the country has started administering bivalent COVID-19 shots to priority groups today. President Bongbong Marcos was on hand at the launch at the Philippine Heart Center in Quezon City. Secretary Ted Urbosa was the first to receive the bivalent COVID-19 jab today. Now, earlier this month, around 390,000 doses of these bivalent shots arrived in the Philippines, and they were donated by the Lithuanian government. In his speech, Marcos encouraged the health department to continue its mandate in protecting Filipinos against COVID-19, especially with the new variants. He also urged the eligible population, which included health workers and senior citizens, to get the second-generation vaccines.
So we must not let our guard down. Although the rest of society, have tried to move on and say the emergency is over, and certainly in a way we can say that is the case. However, it is not over completely. And that is why we should not be complacent.
Now, if you're still wondering, ano ba tong bivalent vaccine na ito and who is it for, here's what we know. The bivalent vaccines are formulated to protect individuals against both the original COVID-19 strain and Omicron variants. It uses mRNA technology, which is a way of introducing spike proteins to host cells, prompting our immune systems to activate immune cells and produce antibodies. The bivalent vaccine is composed of the spike protein from the original strain and also from the Omicron variants. These bivalent vaccines can be used as an updated or third booster shot against COVID-19. A person can receive the Pfizer and Moderna bivalent shots at least 2 months after getting the primary series or booster vaccines. And again, just a reminder, those eligible to receive this vaccine for now are health workers and senior citizens. It is still unclear when bivalent vaccination will be made available to the general population.
So what did those who were eligible for the bivalent shots think about it? JC Cosico tells us.
Reg, the health workers who received the bivalent shot this morning told our team that they wanted to get the vaccine as it gives them additional protection, especially as they are exposed to different patients in their health facilities. Hours after getting the shot, the health workers we spoke with said they have yet to feel any side effects. Despite this, members of the general population are hesitant to receive the shot should it be made available to them in the future. So far, 108,000 doses of bivalent shots were distributed in Metro Manila, while over 200,000 went to different provinces. Negotiations are ongoing for additional supplies. Reg.
Thanks so much, JC Cosico.
Up next, economic managers are looking at imposing additional taxes on sweetened beverages and junk food next year to help fund the 2024 national budget. We'll look into that and more when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back to the big story here on One News. Now here's a heads up for those that are into sweetened beverages and junk food. I think I just described myself there. Who wrote this script for me? The Marcos administration is pushing for the passage of new tax measures on these products this year. According to Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman, the plan is scheduled for implementation in 2025 if it gets approved by Congress. However, it's been expedited to the next fiscal year to further increase the funding for the 2024 national budget. Specific details on the proposed additional tax measures have yet to be disclosed, but the Development Budget Coordination Committee is expecting 53.7 billion pesos in additional revenues from the excise tax on sweetened beverages alone.
We want people to lessen their consumption. So I think it makes sense. You increase your revenue, and at the same time, you help the population to be healthier. And usually, pag ganyan, di ba, what happens is that there's earmarking, maybe for PhilHealth or other health-related programs.
Now, how are consumers like us feeling about this possible tax hike on junk food and sugar-sweetened beverages? Shyla Francisco is here to give us the feel of the people. Shyla, what did they say?
Sean, while there is no decision yet on the proposed tax hikes, consumers are already expressing their discontent. But for the Budget and Finance Department, the potential revenues from the taxes on sweetened beverages and junk food will help fill in the proposed increase in the budget next year. The 2024 national budget is expected to reach 5.77 trillion pesos, higher than this year's budget of 5.27 trillion pesos. According to the DBM, this was already presented to President Bongbong Marcos yesterday. With the higher budget, additional funding will be reportedly allocated to livelihood projects. Aside from that, 10% of the budget will be used to pay the country's debt. Sean?
Thanks for that, Shyla Francisco. Moving on now to the NCR Wage Board holding a public hearing today on 3 wage hike petitions in Metro Manila. The board received 3 petitions in the NCR. One requesting to increase the minimum wage in the capital region by 100 pesos for all regular employees. Meanwhile, the 2 other petitions are seeking to establish a new minimum wage of up to 1,440 pesos to 1,160 pesos. The current daily minimum wage in Metro Manila is set at 570 pesos. The National Wages and Productivity Commission Executive Director Maria Criselda C. told Radyo 5's Ted Filon and DJ Chacha that there are petitions as well from 3 other regions. However, these are all still up for deliberation.
Meron pa hong 3 regions na merong petition. Ito ho ay sa Region 4A, Calabarzon, Region 6 at sa Region 7. Sa ngayon po, ang NCR pa lang po yung merong pinatawag na public hearing. Noong ibang regions ay hindi pa ho sila nagpapatawag ng public hearing. They are still either in the process of consultation or scanning of the socio-economic environment.
So how did business owners react to these petitions? Brian Basa tells us.
Hi, Riza. Employers who attended the hearing argue that they are also victims of a struggling economy. They say they have yet to recover from the pandemic, so a wage hike could hurt small businesses. The Wage Board will deliberate on the petitions next week. They hope to come up with a decision that takes into consideration all sectors involved. That includes small firms that couldn't afford a wage increase. Now, if the petitions are rejected, workers may apply again, but only after a year. Back to you.
Thank you, Brian. Now up next, a Muntinlupa court is being urged to cite for indirect contempt former Senator Laila de Lima, Senator Rizzo Ontiveros, and Congressman Edsel Lagman. The details when the big story returns to Galway.
All right, welcome back. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News. A lawyer from the Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption has asked the Muntinlupa court to cite for indirect contempt former Senator Laila de Lima, Senator Riza Ontiveros, and Congressman Edsel Lagman for embarrassing the wisdom of the court. In the group's petition, they highlighted de Lima's questioning on social media regarding the court's denial of her bail petition on June 7. Attorney Ferdinand Topacio insisted that such statements could potentially affect and influence the court's handling of her remaining illegal drug case. With this, Topacio and his group urged the court to prohibit de Lima from commenting and giving statements to the media. Even Ontiveros and Lagman are being accused, saying that their posts regarding de Lima's case are clearly intended to bully the court. Aside from de Lima, Topacio also asked the court to cite for indirect contempt lawyers Filibon Tacardon and Dino De Leon and Cristina Palabay of Karapatan and Bayan's Renato Reyes.
Ang gusto po nila ay maimpluwensyahan ang hukuman. Yan po ay unethical at labag po sa rules of court. Kami ay nababahala dito sa ginagawa ng kampo ni Senadora De Lima.
Here's some sad news. Filipino Swifties were already getting ready to drop everything now. But no, no guys.
Continue.
No meeting in the pouring rain because pop star Taylor Swift will be skipping Manila for her Eras World Tour. Taylor announced new dates for her 2024 international tour, but sadly, the Philippines was not included in that lineup. Swift's Pinoy fans expressed their dismay on social media, with some now preparing to secure tickets to watch her performance live elsewhere. Singapore is the only Southeast Asian stop of the Eras World Tour so far.
Well, those who are planning to do so are out of luck because I read that it's also sold out in Singapore. 3 nights in Singapore completely sold out. So
Why is that?
they'd have to go to the secondary market.
Is it because
So-
everyone from the southern hemisphere, like Oceania, is flying to Singapore?
Flying to Singapore, maybe.
Yeah, because Coldplay added,
That's
like, I think
right.
they're up to 6 nights in Singapore, which is nuts.
That's right, because a lot of the people that I know, for instance, from Indonesia, are also going to Singapore.
Because it's the
to just-
nearest one.
It's the closest one, that's
And
right.
if you're gonna watch one here or there, where would you go? If you're gonna spend money anyway, right?
Now, who's
And
watching Bruno Mars?
When is Bruno Mars?
This weekend.
That's
Are
right.
you watching Bruno Mars?
No, I hope I can, but it's too pricey.
Oh, really? How
Like
much
around
would it take?
a little under 20K for the closest floor seats.
Same as the Coldplay
Is that-
tickets.
Is that expensive?
It's
Is that
a bit
expensive?
In the
expensive.
local context,
Yeah.
I think so.
I think so. Anyway, even if you compare it to other more developed Southeast Asian nations, our ticket prices are usually a lot steeper.
That's a conversation we were having before we went to air,
Yeah.
actually. Why are concert tickets so expensive? And one day we are going to tackle that with a guest. Not tonight, but
not tonight,
another day.
because we have run out of time, and that's it for the show tonight.
Now, we are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in and good night.